A very, very warm welcome to Silverstone for the fifth race of the SEAT León Eurocup season. This, the third of 7 stops that comprises the 2015 season. Actually, it is the first track where they competed on the 2015 calendar from the 2014 season. So the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, familiar to the very full field of cars. The 3-mile challenge, the home of the British Grand Prix, awaits high-speed turns, some heavy braking sections and plenty of opportunity to slipstream. It is a blustery and slightly chilly June day. Don't be deceived by the sunshine. There is a chill in the air. And on pole position it is Stian Poulsen, the Norwegian driver, who is currently third in the championship standings. And alongside him on the front row is the reigning champion and the current championship leader, the Spaniard Pol Rosell, victorious in the first race in Estoril a few weeks ago. Rosell not yet off the podium in 2015. Third on the grid is last year's León Europe runner-up and the winner of the first race of the year at Paul Ricard. That is Michael Ascona. Fourth in the title race, which is very, very tight heading into the weekend. And then fourth on the grid is Julien Brichet, who finished second last time out in Estoril, fifth in the standings by dint of retirement in the first race of the year in Paul Ricard. Brichet, of course, had that huge role. Silverstone was 12 months ago. The first British driver on the grid is Alexander Morgan, the former Clio Cup racer, who has been shown very strongly with the Podium Motorsport team so far this season. He's got the best result of 5th. That came in race 1. Paul Ricard. 6th on the grid is Manuel João, another Podium Motorsport runner who has had a wretched year to date, and his home event in Estoril was an utter disaster, crashing out of both races through no fault of his own. 7th on the grid for Jordi Uriola, one of the younger drivers in the field, just 18 years old. The Spaniard, he finished 9th in last year's championship. That's figured inside the top 10 pretty much every time out so far in 2015. Next up is a driver well worth looking for. It's Johnny Cocker, better known for his GT racing exploits, but a late deal to compete in the SEAT León Eurocup this weekend. His first experience of front-wheel drive race cars. Then it's on to Mario de Blanda, the Austrian driver who was very impressive in Estoril, finishing 6th and 4th in both of those races, not been outside the top 10 so far this season. The first of the many lazy racers in the field is Lucille Cipriano, who lines up in 10th position as the grid begins to clear. It is an 11-lap or 40-minute race ahead of us, as the grid just begins to be cleared of all the teams. And here is how they line up in full then, with Stian Poulsen and Pol Rosell on the front row of the grid. Just 600ths of a second between them in qualifying. Then Michael Ascona and Julien Brichet on row 2, ahead of Alexander Morgan and Manuel João. Jordi Uriola, and then watch for Johnny Cocker. He should go well as the race progresses. Romario de Blanda and Lucille Cipriano. Then Lorenzo Biarel de Viega and Zolt David Sabo in 12th position. Thibaut Morg and Mauricio Hernandez, Costa Rican, who had wretched luck in Estoril. He'll be looking to improve from 14th on the grid. Fran Rueda, twice a winner this year, and he starts from 16th, leaving the Mondial competition driver with a lot to do. It's Adina Boos and Michael Zemp on row 9. And still they keep coming. Andrina Guga lines up in 19th, and then Dejan Balatovic in 20th in León Racing Car, clear of the Monegasque, Stefano Zanini and Marco Pellegrini. Dominic Fetka and Jean-Laurent Navarro on row 12. Then on to the back of the grid is Clément Mathieu, 25th. Mladen Laluzic, the Serbian driver, in 26th. Had Marie Baus-Coppens, and then Finley Crocker completes the enormous 28-car field. Much to discuss for the SEAT Sport team as we wait for the race to get underway. So far this season, if you've not joined us for the action in Paul Ricard and Estoril, it has been Pol Rosell who has been Mr. Consistent, last year's champion, not off the podium so far, just the one win to his name. That came in race 1 in Estoril. Our other winners have been Michael Ascona and then Fran Rueda, who has claimed both of the reverse grid races that we have on the Sunday morning, so the spectators just dashing to get the best vantage point. So the cars will then have the green flag formation lap before they come back ready for the standing start. And it is, just to explain, the right-hand side of your picture, which is pole position here at Silverstone. Even though that's not the inside line for Copse, it is the optimal racing line for Copse Corner, as we're using the Heritage Pits section this weekend. So away go the cars on the formation lap. Chance to get a little bit of heat into the Yokohama tyres. And with the various technical changes that have been made to the Seat León Eurocup cars for 2015 over the 2014 machine, the expectation is there are going to be about a second, maybe 2 seconds a lap quicker around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit in race trim this weekend. So through the Maggots and Beckett's complex, very high speed changes direction, but then you've got to be super smooth, settling the car down as you come to the end of the Beckett section through the left-hander of Chapel Curve. That takes them onto the hangar straight, which is a prime opportunity for slipstreaming. Although not too strong a headwind down the hangar straight today, and that then leads them on towards Stowe Corner. Well, there is the grey, red and white car, Mikel Lascona, weaving around just ahead of the all-blue car, Julien Brichet, Alexander Morgan, the white car with the black bonnet. Morgan making the transition out of the UK Clio Cup this year, and he won't have raced, I don't think, on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, in fact, in the Clio Cup competition, but he may well have raced on the Grand Prix loop in his days in the Formula Renault 2-litre competition. And as the front of the field already heading on towards Vale and Club, the rear of the pack still down the hangar straight, so it's going to be a reasonably lengthy wait for Stian Poulsen, the Norwegian driver, thrice a winner in the 2014 running of the Seat León Eurocup. Catch a glimpse of Zolt David Sabo, who has scored his best finish of the season last time out in Estoril with a 9th place in what was a fairly frantic race too. Well, certainly one of the talking points for today is going to be the progress of Manuel João. João, last year's championship runner-up, yet to score a single point this season. In Paul Ricard, he was a little bit out of sorts. In Estoril, he had an unfortunate habit of being caught up in other people's over-ambition, and twice the Portuguese driver ending the race in the tyre wall. He will be intending to stay out of trouble. There is the number 8 car of Johnny Cocker, who we have seen racing with great success in international sports car and GT racing over the years. The Seat León Eurocup, something of a new venture for him this weekend. But Johnny seemingly very happy with how it's gone so far. There is the black, green and white car, Jorge Oriola. Oriola 9th in the 2014 championship. It's been steadily in the points throughout most of this season, but yet to really crack the top 5. So the cars coming to the conclusion of the formation lap just through Woodcote Corner, and then lining up for that short run towards Copse Corner. And such is the size of the grid that several of them may well be a little bit around the curve here at Woodcote. There's David Fetka, Dominic Fetka rather. His debut season this year in the Seat León Eurocup. And Dominic lining up for this one in 23rd position as the León racing car of Dejan Balatovic just about to roll into position for the Montenegrin driver. Should be a thoroughly entertaining 11 laps ahead of us. This year's Seat León Eurocup has been ferociously competitive in the opening 4 races. Very much doubt that today's action will be anything less than incredibly close, as the last couple of cars about to come to a halt. All eyes in the garages on the monitors as we wait for the marshal at the rear of the field to wave the green flag, which they do now. So the 5-second board is shown to the drivers. The red lights come on on the gantry, the revs rise. Wait for them to flash out and the race gets underway, which it does now. It's a fantastic start further back on the grid from Marco Pellegrini. Stian Poulsen covers off Paul Rosell as they sprint towards Copse Corner for the first time. It's Ascona in third, Julien Brichet in fourth. Xiao is fifth, although he goes wheel to wheel with Alexander Morgan, as at least the front of the field are all cleanly through, as is the rear as they sprint uphill into Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. And it's the white car of Poulsen has the advantage over the blue and white machine of Rosell. Has a little bit of a wobble, possibly a tap from Michael Ascona as they sprint out of Chapel Curve and on towards the Hanger Straight for the first time. And here's Poulsen, who punches the hole through the air, but it's the battle for second, which is very, very tight as Ascona looks to line up the move on Rosell, but he then has to defend from a challenging Julien Brichet, and Ascona tries to force it. They're all bottled up behind Stian Poulsen, almost three wide through Stowe for the lead of the field as they head on towards Vale and Club. It's Poulsen who's just got the advantage as Alexander Morgan shows to the inside. Oh, there may have been some contact between Morgan and Rosell. They somehow all jinked through, one or two of them taking to the escape route of the round goes Mauricio Hernandez. He got tagged by Zolt David Sabo and damage to Sabo's car as Hernandez recovered. Possibly both of them heading pitwards fairly shortly. Stian Poulsen begins to build up the advantage over Michael Ascona. Rosell has slipped to third, Morgan in fourth, Brichet is fifth. Oriola launches a move for sixth position to the inside of Manuel Xiao. In seventh place, it was Johnny Cocker, or in eighth place rather, it was Johnny Cocker. It's now Mario Dablanda. It's pushed out wide was Thibaut Morg through entry. He'll eventually rejoin some way down the order on the Wellington Straight, as already the leaders are on the brakes into Brooklands at the end of the first of 11 laps, or indeed 40 minutes if we get the intervention of the safety car. Johnny Cocker fights back to the inside of Lorenco Bierau de Viega. Mario Dablanda slipping down the order a little bit. They are joined in that scrap by Lucille Cipriano. Here is a look at Jean-Laurent Navarro being tipped into a high-speed spin. And here is the incident between Zolt Sabo and Hernandez. Hernandez tapped around, and as he rejoined, he tags the rear of Sabo's car. The rear bumper is detached. So the order at the end of lap one, it is Poulsen who leads, but he's being chased down by Michael Ascona. Then we've got the fight for third place between the Baporo Motorsport teammates of Paul Rosell and Alex Morgan. They are being chased as well by Julien Brichet and Manuel Xiao. Then it's a slight gap back to seventh place, Jordi Oriola. Eighth is Johnny Cocker. Ninth, Lorenco Bierau de Viega. And completing the top 10 at the moment is Mario Dablanda. As Cocker having to defend from the Portuguese. Lorenco Bierau de Viega in the bright orange car, looking to the outside of Johnny Cocker into Stowe Corner. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Poulsen is being reeled in pretty rapidly by Michael Ascona. So again, Bierau looks to challenge to the inside at Vale, and this time he slides past Johnny Cocker. Fran Rueda also gets his elbows out as he does battle with the JSB car of Thibaut Morg, and Morg again running out very, very wide. They've got to be mindful here of track limits. They sprint past the Formula One pits complex into Abbey and then Farm on the brakes at Village. An opportunity possibly for Julien Brichet to challenge Morgan. Then into the very tight left-hander at the loop before they accelerate through Aintree onto the Wellington Straight. It's at the end of the Wellington Straight into Brooklands, which is one of the principal overtaking opportunities, and that's where the drivers are concentrating their efforts at the moment. Poulsen headlights ablaze, only a couple of tenths clear of Ascona as Brichet looks to the inside of Alex Morgan. Morgan tries to tough it out around the outside through Brooklands, but he gets squeezed out and therefore loses fourth place to Julien Brichet, point at which they arrive into Luffield, all of which is giving Paul Rosell in third the chance to break clear. So over the line we come at the end of lap two. Replay here of Fran Rueda elbowing Thibaut Morg aside. Morg then finding himself on the marbles of the outside of the club. Still running in 13th position. So it is Poulsen still from Ascona and Rosell. The really close fight, though, is the one for fourth, headed by the metallic blue car of Julien Brichet. He has got the black and white car of Morgan just behind them. We have got the orange, green and white car of Manuel João and the black and green car of Jordi Oriola. That leading septet now well clear of Renko Beirel in 8th place, Johnny Cocker in 9th, Dablanda still completing the top 10. Through Stowe Corner, a little bit of dust being kicked up. Nobody running particularly offline. And this is a stage of the race where they've got to decide, do they work together and see if they can close the gap down to Paul Rosell and begin to turn this into a fight for the podium? Or has Rosell got a sufficient advantage that it starts to become all about the fight for fourth? Meanwhile, at the head of the field, Michael Ascona just beginning to close back onto terms with Stian Poulsen. Julien Brichet, fourth still. He's got the pressure being applied to him by Morgan and João. There is Jordi Oriola in the target car. Ascona just runs a little bit wide out over the curbs. Now the gap between Rosell and Brichet was fractionally over a second at the start of the lap. It is going to have gone out to be a little bit more than that, I suspect, by the end of it, because it's been an excellent middle sector of the lap for Paul Rosell in third position as Stian Poulsen and Michael Ascona. Differential between the pair of them at the conclusion of the last lap was 0.5 of a second. It's possibly opened up a little bit more, though, during this third lap of the race. As out of Luffield into Woodcote Corner. Manuel João in 6th place. If he stays there, that will be his best result of the season so far, but not really where he wants to be in terms of the pace that he showed last year, taking the title fight all the way to the wire in Barcelona. But we've seen the car in front of him, Alex Morgan, often has started races very well in 2015, but has potentially faded as the race has worn on, and so shall just be looking for signs of slight waywardness from his Maporo teammate. Look for the opportunity to challenge. It's down the hanger straight, and Stian Poulsen has doubled his advantage over Michael Ascona. That has gone out to the best part of a second. Then it's a further second back to Paul Rosell, and it's 1.5 seconds back to the fight for fourth. In 8th place, Renko Beirel just breaking away with Johnny Cocker from in 10th place, Mario Dablanda. And behind Dablanda, it's Fran Rueda and Lucille Cipriano. Cipriano, the foremost of the lady racers in the field at the moment, so she is en route to potentially claim the Lady Racers trophy that has been introduced for this year. There is the car of Zolt Sabo, minus, of course, its rear bumper. So through Abbey and then jinking on through Farm. And it's the turn of Jordi Oriola to begin to apply the pressure to João. João defends into Village. Oriola to the outside. Then tries to force the move to the inside at the loop. That in turn forces Manuel João possibly to the look to the inside of Alex Morgan. That should be advantage Oriola, you would suspect, in terms of the Spaniard being able to take the cleaner line out of the loop and onto the Wellington straight. The leading trio remaining much as they were. Julien Brichet just a little bit of daylight between himself and Alex Morgan, and the same really from Morgan back to João. João, though, in the number 2 car, very strong run through Brooklands as Fran Rueda begins to apply the pressure to Mario Dablanda, and it's Rueda, the multicoloured car, looking to the outside of the grey and red car of the Austrian driver Dablanda, but Mario maintains the advantage as they power on through Woodcote Corner. And now Rueda looks to the inside of the copse. That's a brilliant move from Fran Rueda. If he can make it stick, Dablanda, though, may carry the same amount of momentum because that swooping line through copse is often more effective. And in fact, that's exactly how it plays out. Dablanda maintains that 10th position, although Rueda looks to force his way through at Beckett's. Great stuff between the pair of them as Cipriano sits behind, ready to pounce if it all goes wrong. And finally, Fran Rueda forces his way past the Austrian driver Mario Dablanda. Dablanda, though, immediately underneath the rear wing of Fran Rueda as the pair of them propel down the hanger straight. Also, there's the multicolour car you can see of Jürgen Schmal. That's the green and black machine as Cipriano looks to the inside of Dabland. They've got Thibaut Morg as well with them as a challenge for 4th position. Morgan looks to the outside of Julien Brichet into Vale, tries to then just prize an opening to the inside at Club. That doesn't quite work out, but the fight for 4th well and truly comes alive once more. The leading trio, no change in the order, that is still Poulsen from Ascona and Rosell. Then we've got this very, very competitive scrap for 4th position, still headed by the metallic blue car of Julien Brichet. But for how long? Morgan is on the hunt, and he's brought Rosell and Oriola with him for company. Head through the loop, bumper to bumper. This is Seat León Eurocup racing at its very, very best. It's clean, it's close, and there is absolutely no margin for error. And that is a huge spin for Mladen Laluzic in the León racing car. The sideways Serbian recovers control, regains the traction. They've lost too much ground. Jürgen Schmal, one of several drivers who has been forced out wide as this race has unfolded. Meanwhile, there is a change for 4th because Alex Morgan is through past Julien Brichet, so Morgan takes his turn in 4th position, but as they've scrapped, they've fallen 4 seconds behind the leading trio in the field, and now Julien Brichet slips immediately into the clutches of Manuel João. There is João, very popular Portuguese driver. Very experienced competitor as well. But Brichet carrying the speed through Beckett's just begins to shake off Oriola. Meanwhile, the leading trio of Poulsen, Ascona and Rosell, the differential between those cars has come down to 1.7 seconds, so the fight for lead is far from settled as now João pulls out of the toe to the inside of Julien Brichet on the brakes into Stowe corner, and slides through into 5th position. Perfectly judged past that from João, but Brichet looks to fight back, but he's got the outside line for Vale, and he's not sufficiently alongside João to make that move into Club. Meanwhile, Johnny Cocker to the inside of Lourenco Beirao and goes through up into 8th place for Johnny Cocker. Beirao gets demoted. It's one of those races where you don't really quite know where to look, do you? Because there are these groups of cars squabbling throughout the field. As now that João is past Julien Brichet, get a chance to see just how on the limit Stian Poulsen is at the front of the pack. Poulsen, the best result so far this season of 2 second places, one apiece in Paul Ricard and Estoril. Can he go one better today? He's got a reasonable advantage over Michael Ascona and Rosell. For Rosell, this continues remarkable run of podium finishes. For Michael Ascona, it's a chance to really get back into the title fight after a slightly more muted weekend in Estoril. So out of Luffield through Woodcote Corner. This is the conclusion of lap 6 of the race. It's just 5 to go. In 4th place, that's Alexander Morgan. 5th is Manuel João. 6th is Julien Brichet. 7th is Jordi Oriola. And it's Brichet who is sliding down the order. He's now got Oriola all over his tail. Brichet runs out very, very wide through Copse Corner, and we're seeing lots and lots of track limits warnings flags being displayed to the drivers. They're going to have to be careful to keep themselves within the margins between now and the checkered flag. So Morgan busy defending from João. Likewise, Brichet under pressure from Jordi Oriola. So they accelerate onto the hanger straight once more. João going to be quite close enough to Morgan to challenge him into Stowe Corner. Doesn't look as if he is, even with the camera angle foreshortening it a little bit yet. João about a car length back, but Oriola looks to challenge the inside of Julien Brichet and is going to make that move stick. Great pass there from Jordi Oriola. Julien Brichet was unable to fight back past Manuel João last time through, and he can't do it again. So Julien Brichet has to concede. So the squabble for 8th place and beyond continues. Dina Bush just looking to the inside of Zolt Sabo. The two Hungarians making contact through club corner. That brings Andrina Guga into the mix in the pink and white car. And Guga, who was very impressive in Estoril a couple of weeks ago, currently in 17th position, but you can see she's hardly, in terms of a time differential, that far away from lead. Here's another look at Zolt Sabo trying to find some space where there really was none to the inside of Adina Boos. As a result, Andrina Guga, the former Lister Open racer, looks to join in. Stian Poulsen is beginning to stamp his authority on this race. It's been an excellent lap from the Norwegian driver, as now Michael Ascona slips into the clutches of his Spanish compatriot, Paul Rosell. Rosell, an ex-competitor in the International GT Open. Michael Ascona, as we said earlier on, moving across from the Clio Eurocup, where he was runner-up last season. Ascona taking liberties on the brakes into Kopp's corner, just flicking the tail of the car. He and Rosell again running wide. As they sprint on towards Magazabek, it's just over the crest of the road. And jinking through Beckett's. And it's this section of Beckett's where consistency starts to become the key, and setting up for a smooth run into Chapel Curve and then onto the Hangar Straight. The heat haze shimmers off the track surface. And Poulsen was 1.2 seconds clear of Ascona at the start of the lap. I suspect it's going to be fractionally less than that as they turn into Stowe. In fourth place, it's still Alex Morgan, the car with the black bonnet, and his Papora Motorsport teammate, Manuel Xiao, in close pursuit. A fight for fourth and fifth, just easing clear of Jordi Oriola and Julien Brichet. Eighth place, it remains Johnny Cocker. Now, what has Oriola got up his sleeve? Could he close in onto the tail of the Xiao and Morgan battle? Julien Brichet, just wonder if he's gone the wrong way with setup, because Julien is a pretty feisty competitor, and to see him sliding down the order like this is very much out of character, as now the fight for second comes alive, and that's very brave on the brakes from Paul Rosell. The car squirms as he stops it in time for Village and makes the move. Absolutely brilliant stuff from Rosell. We've seen him being consistent this year. We've seen him applying the pace when he needs to, but that was a moment of bravery from Rosell, asking absolutely everything of his car. Here's another look at it. Just weaves on the brakes as he desperately slows it down. All credit as well to Michael Ascona. He saw Rosell coming, gave him plenty of racing room. It meant that neither driver got skittled. And Ascona, as we come to the conclusion of lap 8, has still got 3 tours of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit to try and fight back. So through Woodcote they come. And Rosell pushing very, very hard. His deficit to Stian Poulsen is 1.6 seconds. That feels like it may be insurmountable. And again, Rosell runs wide at Kopp's corner. We've just had a notification on our timing screen that essentially every single driver in the race is currently under warning for exceeding track limits. And what that means is when they put all 4 wheels over the white line that marks the edge of the circuit. And typically, you get away with it once or twice, but thereafter you start to get into the realm of penalties. Stian Poulsen, though, has looked unflustered throughout the course of the race. Meanwhile, we could be seeing a change here for 5th position, because Jordi Oriola flashes his headlights at Manuel Xiao as he looks to challenge the Portuguese driver into Stowe corner. Xiao deep on the brakes, makes sure he hogs the inside line. Oriola, though, carrying a little bit more momentum on the exit as they sprint towards Vale. Again, Xiao defends. Great stuff from Manuel Xiao. Perfect positioning of the car. Despite Oriola's superior pace as they headed towards the braking zone at Vale, there was nothing that Oriola could do to overhaul Xiao. They come out of club, sprint on towards Abbey. This is very good news for Alex Morgan in 4th place. He has just got that very slender buffer over Manuel Xiao as Xiao asks everything of the car through Abbey. The same then through the left-hander at Farm, but Oriola possibly on the brakes into Village. He's got the inside line. Xiao gives him racing room. Oriola not sufficiently far enough ahead to deter Xiao into the loop. Xiao stops the car on a dime. Oriola then looking for the switchback as they sprint towards Aintree. but fantastic defensive driving from Manuel João. He got a reputation throughout the 2014 season as being a driver who was never flustered in defence and was hard work to overhaul. As you can see, that reputation very well justified. Both of them, though, heavily on the brakes into Brooklands. Front splitter grounds off the track surface as they head around the right-hander at Luffield, kicking up the dust. Here's another look then at Oriola's challenge. It's on the brakes, but not quite as late as Paul Rosell. It meant that João could go elbow to elbow with him and, more importantly, retain the inside line for the loop. Into the penultimate lap we go. Just 6 miles of racing remain in the 5th race of the SEAT León Eurocup season at Silverstone. Thank you very much for joining us for all the action today. We've been treated to another very keenly contested race. It's still Stian Poulsen who leads from Paul Rosell and Michael Ascona. As a little bit lower down the order, that is Finlay Crocker making a pass on Clément Mathieu. Mathieu shows his appreciation with a little bit of a love tap. Meanwhile, Zolt Sabo is having one of those days. Flings the car sideways as he gets demoted by Dina Boos. Out of Stowe corner then in the fight for 4th place, and it is Alexander Morgan who maintains that 4th from João. And then Jordi Oriola with Julien Brichet in 7th position. There is Poulsen. Rosell trying to close in over the course of this final lap. They've dropped Michael Ascona. Ascona, though, in a very safe 3rd. In the Lady Drivers' Trophy, by the way, that is still Lucille Cipriano, who heads that in 11th position. And Manuel João would appear to have withstood that challenge from Jordi Oriola. And Oriola, a little bit offline through farm, suggests that maybe his tyres are beginning to feel a little bit second-hand. If anything, he's possibly slipping into the clutches of Julien Brichet. So along the Wellington Straight then, Manuel João in the tow of Alex Morgan. He's not going to be close enough to challenge into Brooklands on this occasion, but what we have seen in a couple of the other races here at Silverstone already today is that the drivers have been saving it for some last lap dramatics. Well, Stian Poulsen crosses the stripe. He'll be hoping for a very pedestrian and event-free final lap. He leads Paul Rosell by a fraction over 1 second, and given that these cars in the SEAT León Eurocup are to all intents and purposes identical, that is a huge ask of Rosell. Doesn't mean it's an insurmountable task. It means that he's got to have an awful lot of life left in his Yokohama tyres and maybe 1 or 2 more tricks up his sleeve. Rosell, though, taking big bites of curb through Beckett's and heads onto the hangar straight in pursuit of Poulsen. Coming towards the conclusion of the 1st sector, the end of the hangar straight. That will give us an indication if the gap has come down. Indeed it has, by half a second. So Paul Rosell, an absolutely fantastic 1st sector. And so Poulsen's advantage over Rosell, 0.5 of a second. It extends a little bit through Stowe as Rosell runs wide. Rosell then desperately late on the brakes into Vale, slight lock of the tyres. Now, will he be close enough to challenge Stian Poulsen into Brooklands? That's really the main overtaking opportunity, but Poulsen has an excellent run through Club, and therefore the gap between 1st and 2nd opens out once more. They turn into Abbey for the final time. And Rosell is going to continue his record of trips to the rostrum. That's going to be 5 from 5 for Rosell, and therefore will further consolidate his advantage at the head of the championship. Through the loop for the final time, just a handful of corners remaining, and it would appear as if we are going to get the lights to flag victory for Stian Poulsen, his 1st triumph of the season. He just needs to make sure that he doesn't get flustered on the brakes into Brooklands. Rosell not close enough on the slipstream, and he doesn't even look to make the move. Instead, he just lets the brakes run off a little bit through Brooklands, shows himself large in Poulsen's mirrors, but Stian Poulsen, former European Touring Car Cup champion, wise to those challenges, accelerates out of Luffield through Woodcote Corner, and it is going to be victory in the 5th round of the 2015 Seat León Eurocup for Stian Poulsen. 2nd place goes the way of Paul Rosell, and 3rd for Michael Ascona, his 2nd rostrum of the season. But what about the fight for 4th? It is decided in favour of Alex Morgan. 5th goes to Manuel João, 6th Jordi Oriola, 7th to Julien Brichet, and here is Lucille Cipriano, who is going to take 11th place and also the Lady Driver Trophy honours. Well, a thoroughly entertaining race once more from the Seat León Eurocup, and a victory for Stian Poulsen. Came into the race 3rd in the standings. He will climb to 2nd, overhauling the points tally from Fran Rueda in the process. But of course, the weekend is only half done. Race 2 from the weekend takes place at 3:30 British summertime tomorrow afternoon, so do make sure that you join us for that one. For now, though, it is time for Stian Poulsen to celebrate as he heads along the Hanger Straight. It was a fantastic last lap challenge from Paul Rosell, but it wasn't quite enough for Rosell, and therefore Poulsen scoring the win. Well, Michael Ascona, again, very sprightly start to the race from Ascona, but fading late on, nonetheless a very safe 3rd position, and that keeps him in the championship battle. So Poulsen proceeding around to Parc Ferme, where we'll be hoping to hear from Stian once he gets himself out of the car, and then to celebrate on the Silverstone podium. For now, though, he enjoys the acclaim of the marshals and the spectators scattered around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Always a very firm favourite of the drivers, Silverstone, because it's one of those tracks where you've got the opportunity to attain some really quite high top speeds. There are some fast corners, there are some more technical sections as well, and to overcome the challenge is quite an achievement. And that is what Stian Poulsen has done. He wins it then from Paul Rosell and Michael Ascona. Ascona also can celebrate with fastest lap. Alex Morgan, a fine 4th in his home event from Manuel João, Jordi Oriola and Julien Brichet. Johnny Cocker, a great 8th on his debut, clear of Lourenco Biera de Viega after their super scrap. Fran Rueda completes the top 10, and Lucille Cipriano, our top lady race from 11th, clear of Mario Dablanda, Jürgen Schmal and Thibaut Morg. Adina Bus, fighting drive to 15th, just clear of compatriot Zalt Szabo. Then Andrina Guga, a little bit muted for 17th, head of Dejan Balatovic, Stefano Zanini, Michael Zempedis, who completes the top 20. Mary Baus-Capens driving up the order well, was 21st, clear of Clément Mathieu and Dominic Fetka. Finley Crocker, another driver who made ground, up to 24th. A race very low on casualties, but Mauricio Hernandez, unfortunately, one of them. In terms of the championship then, Rosell consolidates at the top of the standings. His advantage over Stian Poulsen, 6 points, with Michael Ascona jumping up to 3rd, clear Fran Rueda, Julien Brichet, then Alex Morgan climbing up to 6th position, overhauling Mario Dablanda. Applause for Stian Poulsen as the door opens and he celebrates on the bonnet. I think he rather enjoyed that one, and that was the perfect performance for Poulsen. He got a super getaway at the start of the race and was able to build. It wasn't a comfortable buffer, but it was a sufficient buffer to give him the victory. So congratulations and handshakes all around for Stian Poulsen. Paul Rosell, runner-up, concedes a couple of points to Poulsen in the championship, but he is having one of those seasons. He was very consistent last year en route to the crown. This year, he is consistent right at the front of the field. Ascona also offering his congratulations to Stian Poulsen. So the drivers very shortly heading up to the podium. You see that the legend there on the back of Stian Poulsen's helmet. It's not personal, it's racing. Poulsen, not unsurprisingly, smiling ear to ear. So have a look at the super slow motion highlights of the cars in action. Ascona and Rosell pushing very hard in the early stages, but they couldn't quite get onto terms with our race winner, Stian Poulsen. Poulsen making it look easy, but he was pushing very, very hard throughout the course of those 11 laps. So let's hear from our race winner, Stian Poulsen.
Stian, congratulations. Finally you did it. Last year you tried and this year you did it.
Yeah, I'm quite glad now, but I'm thinking about the race tomorrow already, and I have some very good tires I saved, but we can see it now in the end. I'm a little bit too slow, so we have to do something for tomorrow.
But you kept a really good pace from the beginning, so it's good for you.
Yeah, but Rosell was faster in the end, and of course in the middle of the race I come down a little bit, so it was difficult to start going fast again, but yeah, we have to do a little bit with the setup for tomorrow, because we're aiming for podium tomorrow again. But of course I'm happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, there is the words of professional racing driver Stian Poulsen. He takes the lights to flag victory. He's still not happy, thinking about tomorrow's race. This is how he did it then. Great jump from the line to lead from Rosell and Ascona as they turned through Copse for the first time. Rosell, though, in the early running, was elbowed down the order as Mauricio Hernandez was drop-kicked from proceedings, and then the return contact enough to put Hernandez out of the race. The early stages saw plenty of swapping of positions as some race-long battles began to get underway, not least the excellent fight that we had for fourth place. It was eventually claimed by Alex Morgan, but that really wasn't quite the story of it. Likewise, another driver on the charge was Fran Rueda. Manuel João having a much better day today as he was in the thick of the action en route to fifth place and his first points of the 2015 season. This, though, was the passing manoeuvre of the event, squirming on the brakes as Paul Rosell went to the inside of Michael Ascona and snatched second position. Well, late on, Rosell did close up onto the tail of Stian Poulsen, but Poulsen was able to withstand the challenge and came through to claim a lights to flag victory, his first win of the 2015 Seat León Eurocup season. Rosell runner-up and Michael Ascona completing the rostrum with Lucille Cipriano, the Lady Driver Trophy winner. So applause the drivers on to the rostrum, and in third place, Michael Ascona. Runner-up, Paul Rosell. And race winner, Stian Poulsen. So on to the top step of the podium for Stian Poulsen after he takes time to greet everybody else on the rostrum. And then Lady Driver Trophy winner, Lucille Cipriano, who put in a very strong drive to 11th place. Norwegian national anthem in honour of Stian Poulsen, winner of the fifth race of the Seat León Eurocup season. Don't forget the sixth race of the 2015 campaign is going to be live here tomorrow at 15:30. British summertime is when the lights go out. Our coverage will start about 10 minutes before that at 3:20, so do make sure you join us for that as we move on to the presentation of the trophies. And one of the very nice touches we see in the Seat León Eurocup is that it's the team representatives of each of the drivers on the rostrum who does the honours with the presentations. Always very good-looking trophies as well, modelled on the wing mirror of the Seat León Eurocup car. So Paulson receives the gold trophy as the winner. And then for Lucille Cipriano, once more victorious in the Lady Drivers Trophy. So the drivers about to pose for the photos, and then it will be time to make merry with the champagne here at Silverstone. Thoroughly entertaining, close and competitive race from the Seat León Eurocup. The championship fight is coming together very, very nicely. So as the drivers are about to enjoy the spoils of victory on the rostrum at Silverstone, it's time for myself, Ben Evans, to say thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll look forward to joining us for the second race of the weekend tomorrow afternoon.